Hey there, I'm Amy from thecrazycraftlady.com. Welcome back to week 6 in my 25 crafts to Christmas countdown. This week we're making a cute little wall decor. It's a little scroll sign made out of brown craft paper. You can get a roll of it at the Dollar Tree for $1.25. Not $1.25, sorry. But for this I'm using little pre-made templates that I whipped up. So they're available on my blog. You don't have to use these. There are a million free, just search Christmas printables, free SVG files, cut files, whatever. But if you want to use one of my pre-made ones and you're watching this video on YouTube, go down to the video description and click the link over to my blog post at thecrazycraftlady.com. Or if you're watching this video on my blog, there should be a big old red button that says download the templates here. And you can download and print these to use to make your own scroll Christmas sign. I'm going to show you how I put mine together. Let's get making. You will want to start by measuring and cutting your paper scroll. So because I made this with an 8.5 by 11 template sheet, I didn't use the full roll of craft paper and I cut my roll down to about 15 inches wide. I really like this long metal ruler. It has a cork backing so it doesn't slide around. But I just at intervals measured with a pencil and made little tick marks at the 15-inch mark, and then I connected the tick marks together to make a line down my roll of craft paper. And this roll had been kind of beaten up at the store, so I used the good side on the right and the less wrinkled side on the left I tossed and used for scrap. But once you have measured 15 inches across down, I don't know, about 4 feet down on your roll of craft paper, then you can cut just inside that pencil mark with your scissors. So you want to have about 15 inches by 4 feet for this size of a little hanger. Just be sure to trim right on the inside of your pencil mark. That way you don't have any pencil showing on the front of your hanging scroll sign. Next up, it was time to trace my design onto my paper. So I selected my little template. They're free. You can print them off on my blog at thecrazycraftlady.com. But all I did is I just took a piece of this carbon transfer paper. So you want to have it dark side facing down. So the lighter side faces up. And then you just set that underneath whatever template you want to transfer over, and then use some masking tape or some very gentle tape. Like you want this to be able to peel off and not damage the brown craft paper underneath. So just in maybe 2 corners, apply a tiny little bit of tape and have more of the tape on your template and then like a tiny little corner overhanging onto the brown paper. You want it just enough that it'll hold the template in place while you trace it, but you don't want to risk ripping the paper. And then use this handy dandy transfer tool and get tracing. So you just want to trace over all of the lines. And this is pretty straightforward because I had, thin graphics and very thin font. So there wasn't a whole lot of complicated tracing going on. I just did one line straight over everything. And here's my finished product. When I peel this away, I have like a really dark pencil marking of my template on my brown craft paper. Easy peasy. However, if you do not have this carbon transfer paper, you can buy it on Amazon for not that much money. But if you're like, I don't want to buy this because I'm never going to use it again, this other method works not quite as well, especially on brown paper, and it's more labor intensive. My hand was starting to cramp up by the end of all of my crafting today doing this, but it is very possible. So you just want to take a pencil and scribble all over the back of your template. Wherever there's ink on the front of the paper, that's where you want to scribble across the back of the paper. Just at random intervals, back and forth, left to right, up to down. It doesn't have to be, it can be as messy as you want. And then flip that paper over and then tape it in place. And then just come in with like a regular old ballpoint pen and trace over your design. Like I said, this isn't as effective. The carbon transfer paper is a whole lot darker than the pencil. So like you can kind of see it. In real life, and not on camera, it was a lot more obvious and it's very doable. But on bigger projects, especially when I don't want my hand cramping up, I like the carbon transfer paper better. And then it was just time to grab a Sharpie and trace over my entire design on my little sign. You can be as precise or as freehand as you want with this. I really like, I don't want to stress about like getting everything exactly matching how it looked on the template, but it is nice to have that template next to your design. So if like maybe there's a part that you forgot to trace over, you can like reference the template as a guide to see, okay, oh yeah, that's what this is supposed to look like. But then everything's traced over and I have my cute little Sharpie design on my Kraft paper. Now, the design that I transferred was kind of all like skinny fonts and designs, so I wanted to show you a couple of examples of other techniques. So if you have graphics or thicker fonts, this will be helpful. So I just transferred over this example with carbon paper. And so the skinny font, you just do one swipe through with a Sharpie, especially like a thicker tip with a Sharpie. It just, you know, you just do one swipe and that's thick enough. Now, if you have graphics or thicker fonts, I find it easiest to outline first and then fill in. So do it like you'd be, remember when you were like in middle school and you were like very particular about like the way you colored things, or maybe elementary school, I don't know, like you'd outline it first thicker and then fill in crosshatch back and forth so that it was all filled in evenly. That's what you do on your graphics. And then on your thicker fonts, like this is a serif font. So I did like the horizontal lines, I just did one stroke across, but the vertical lines are thicker. So I did 2 lines on those. And you can kind of play around, like trace it and then say, oh, you know, that looks a little off, and you can make little parts a little bit thicker, add on until you get your font kind of looking how you want it to. Okay, so I made my scroll sign in this example a bit smaller so that it could accommodate just an 8.5 by 11 template. This is great if you want to do like a gallery wall of a few of them, or you have just like a smaller area on your wall that you want to decorate. Now, if you want to make a much larger sign and say, for example, use like a full roll of craft paper, like you can make a full sign, right? This is not going to cut it. And now my workaround for this, I use a Mac. So I apologize, I am not well versed in the land of PCs, but when I use a Mac, what I do is I open my PDF file in Adobe Acrobat Reader, which you can download and install on your computer for free. And then in the top left-hand corner, you just hit the print file button. And from there, there will be an option for paper sizing. So all you have to do is select poster and then select the scale. So I can do, you know, 150 or 175 or 200, whatever percent you want to make your poster, and then it will divide your image onto several pages, and then you can print it out on your regular home printer. So I did an example here at 175%, and it divided it onto 4 sheets. So this was the merry and bright ones. Then what you have to do is you gotta like piece these together on your work surface and then place the transfer paper underneath, make sure everything's aligned, and then start tracing. Now finally, it's time to assemble your scroll sign, which is super slick. All you need is a wooden dowel, whatever thickness. This is like a 1/2-inch dowel, maybe 3/8. And this was a softer wood, and I measured it at 18 inches because my paper was 15 inches. So you want it just a couple inches longer than the width of your paper. Now, if you have a small handsaw or like a miter saw and you want to go with the power tools, more power to you, pun intended. But I just used my miter shears because this was such a soft wood. I set it at a 90-degree cut and I made some scores all the way around the wood. And then, so once I had scored it all the way around, you know, 3-4 times, it just snapped right apart. Super easy. And then finally, you want to roll up the tops and the bottoms of your paper over top of that wooden dowel, and it's up to you, personal preference on how tight or loose you want that paper rolled. But to get it to stay at the very end, like once you've rolled it up as far as you want it to go, I just secured it in the back with a couple of paper clips. I didn't want anything too permanent because on the off chance that I decide I want to change this out with the seasons, it's not permanently attached. I can just undo the paper clips and then swap out the paper on my dowels and then rehang it. And then to kind of keep the dowels in place, because they will slide back and forth, you could use a dab of hot glue in the back, but I like permanent double-sided Scotch tape. And you just slide that Scotch tape in between the wooden dowel and the paper, like that first layer of paper along the back. And that's enough to keep it holding in place once it's hanging on the wall. And then finally, to get this project hung up, you just want dollar store. I have a roll of dollar store twine, just whatever you got. Wrap it 3 or 4 times on one end, tie it with a double knot. Then decide how much length you want between each side. So like how long do you want this hanger to be? And then on the other end, wrap it 3, 4 more times and double knot it as well. And trim off any excess and you're in business. And then you can hang this on your wall as is. I think it's super cute to hang it with a little bit of a greenery garland over it to add a little bit more three-dimensional interest. But here's my finished project on the wall in my craft room. But like I said, feel free to download any, free SVGs or printables off Pinterest or the internet that you like, or download the templates off of my blog if you want to use those. And then get creative with printing at 100% or 200% and make different size scroll signs for Christmas. The customizing options on this project are literally endless. So I do hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Until next time, happy making.